Hi. How are you?
I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited to talk to you as well.
I feel like I'm in the middle of a sort of marathon because I watched Malcolm and Marie and then I started watching Euphoria and I'm just
geez.
geeking out. You're just so extraordinarily good in both of them.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, it's just incredible. So and Malcolm and Marie is so brilliant and so beautiful and such an amazing accomplishment in lockdown.
It was it was interesting, you know. I think for all of us, I think the number one thing was the ability to do it safely. And it kind of started with conversations with Sam Levinson, obviously, who I'm very close with and was lucky enough to do Euphoria with. And Euphoria shut down literally, I think, the Friday before we were supposed to start on a Monday. And so that kind of threw us both for a little bit of a loop. But we ended up just having a lot of conversations while both of us were quarantining. And, you know, I had this thought of like, could we just do something in my house or something like that? You know, so we kind of started bouncing ideas around, kind of understanding the parameters of what we would kind of have to be working with, which it would either have to be me alone and all like just a very small group of people doing something inside a house or something like that. And then he calls me and he was like, yo, Z, I got a good one, you know, and he starts telling me this kind of concept, and he would write 10 to 15 pages at a time, and he'd call me and then we'd talk about it for however many hours. And then he kind of cold called John David because that was the only person that he could really imagine being Malcolm. And so he started writing it for us. And I was nervous because I was like, well, this isn't a real thing yet. You know, it's just a few pages that we've talked about, you know, back and forth for a few days. Like, I could understand if he's like, I don't necessarily know if I want to be a part of this. Because there was no like real structure yet. Once it kind of started becoming a realer idea, you know, the number one thing, and I'm very grateful for Ashley Levinson, also Kevin, Katya Washington, Harrison, all our producers who really did the hard work consulting with different medical professionals and making sure that, you know, we had a very, very strict protocol, because if we were going to do this, the number one thing is that people were safe. And so we kind of created a bubble, essentially.
Malcolm, I feel like once you know someone is there for you and once you know they love you, you never actually think of them again.
I'm sort of fascinated by the whole process of it, because it feels like theatre in a way.
I love theater, and that's kind of where I learned my love for acting. I think some people, it comes from watching movies. For me, it came from the stage because my mom worked at the California Shakespeare Theater when I was a kid. It really did feel a bit like a play in the sense that we just got to workshop it for much longer than I feel like, you know, normally in movies, you don't get that time.
You said when we were sort of on that virtual call before that you did something with the crew where you sort of, the crew were given back end on the, is that right?
Yeah.
That's so amazing. So how did that all work out?
We had this opportunity to kind of essentially restructure the way the movie was financed and made, because we were making it with our own money and doing it ourselves. This conversation kind of occurred of, you know, how important our crew was, because a lot of that crew that went with us, it was a skeleton crew of a very small amount of people, but they were all from Euphoria, and Euphoria had shut down, and those are our people, you know, those are the people that have been with us through so much in such a long, intense season, and they weren't able to work either. It just kind of, it's very interesting to me that, you know, even in our industry, the people who day in and day out put all the work into something don't necessarily ever see or have a kind of honest financial investment or benefit from the work that they do. And so it was really special for us because we were able to offer our key crew members, you know, points on the movie. It was very special. But I'm excited to ask you some questions too, because I was able to watch the film. It's exciting to see, I think, women just, you know, making things that they want to make and being bold and fearless in their artistry. It's very exciting. I guess I would ask, how did you get involved in it?
I actually go a really long way back with Emerald Fennell, the director. We worked together when we were both 18, but it was sort of
Oh, wow.
It was weird, and we didn't
I love
remember
that.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks into filming, and Emerald went on IMDb for some reason, and it said, you have, 2 shared titles with Carey Mulligan. And we were like, what? And we looked up on YouTube, and we were both in this episode of, like a murder mystery thing on TV. But neither of us could remember. But we had sort of crossed paths, and then, we'd met at a friend's house, but not really talked about anything to do with this movie. And then she sent it to me, in like January 2019, and came through my agent, who gave me kind of no preamble. I just read it in one go and was kind of floored by it, and just felt like it was nothing like anything I'd read. She sent this playlist along with it with, Stars Are Blind, Paris Hilton, and Boys, Charlie XCX.
Whisper something in your ear.
All the music that you see in the movie, and, this amazing mood board of what the film, how she imagined the look of the film, and, the combination of all of those things was just so exciting. So I met her like 2 days later, and then, pretty quickly, sort of about 5 minutes into the meeting, I was like, God, I can't believe you're letting me do this thing. Yes, please. She's sort of one of those people that you meet and you think like, God, I wish I could be your best mate. She's really incredibly funny and clever and smart, and she's also somebody who I think really knows how they think, and stands behind it. And she was always so clear from the beginning about how she wanted to do this film. It's similar to the way it sounds like you and Sam worked. I tend to sort of try and hide a bit, and will err on the side of caution when I'm working, because I always sort of have an aversion to sort of overacting or something that feels, and doesn't feel truthful. So I'll sort of do a bit less. And she was really great at being like, okay, we've got the less version. Now you can try and do.
Now go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like now just, let everything go and whatever.
I understand that feeling too. I do, because I guess I have a fear of doing it, because I guess, like the Disney kid thing, I get scared of like, that kind of thing. So sometimes it's good to have that, like you're saying, that freedom to say, you know what, I'm going to just go for it. I'm going to do it.
But you surely can't think of yourself as the Disney kid now. I mean, you surely.
Well, the thing is I am, and to a degree, like I'm grateful for that. That's where I started, and I learned so much from that experience. And I'm just grateful that like it's just kind of been this slow progression, and I'm just taking my time, and I'm happy that it's all been like kind of to prove it to myself and not to anybody else.
You're so unbelievably truthful and brilliant and real in Euphoria and in Malcolm and Marie. And it's really dark stuff to do. And particularly in Malcolm and Marie, like doing it in that bubble, of doing it under the conditions that you were working in, and not having, presumably sort of family or friends to go and kind of decompress with. Did you feel that way? Or how did it feel doing that?
There was so much family around us. It felt like we created this set family, of support. It was interesting, I think, because that year in general, I had wrapped Euphoria. I'd done like a press tour for Spider-Man, and then I hadn't really done anything up until Malcolm and Marie. As far as like the whole year, it wasn't by choice. It was just, I didn't find anything that felt right and connected in any kind of way. And then obviously, being in lockdown, and I think I was definitely itching to do what I love to do so much, because I just hadn't been able to do it for so long. And I had already kind of geared up and was in the headspace of a season 2, and then that wasn't happening.
Suddenly, the whole world goes dark. And nothing else matters but the person standing in front of you.
While I was in quarantine, I would do this thing to kind of like keep me motivated. And I would go downstairs. I live with my assistant, who's also like a brother to me, but I told him, I'll try working out, okay? Like I'll do some physical activity, I think it's good for me. And so every day I'd come down with I have a whole bunch of wigs, essentially, from many years of being on red carpets, and I would put on a different wig and be a different character every day. So when I got the opportunity to do this, I was so happy. I felt so lucky to just be there, even sometimes crying. So I was like, I feel great. I feel so happy to be here.
Look at me. I'm the last person standing.
This is more of a personal question, when it comes to things or projects is there something to, because I find at least sometimes that feeling of being a little bit scared to do something is almost a good thing, and can almost draw you to it because it feels like a challenge. And I want to know if that is something that maybe feels true to you too. Like, is there sometimes a fear when you read something that can also kind of be a good thing?
With Promising Young Woman, because it is dealing with, you know, sexual assault, and it's a very real thing for so many people. You know, you're ultra aware walking into something like that you're dealing with something incredibly sensitive, and it's also a dark comedy. You know, we're sort of, there is a gallows humor to this, so that is obviously so. Majority of the film was just so much fun. We had such a good. It's the first time I've ever been in a film that has a blooper reel, which I don't think they're going to release. I'm really disappointed about because it's so great, but. My main job most days was just trying to keep it together. What was so great about this was, you know, I was definitely nervous. There was definitely sort of fear coming into it. And that is something that always makes me excited to work. I think if I read something and think like, you know, if I get 20 pages in and think, oh, I kind of know how this, I know, like, kind of know how to do it, then it's sort of not interesting. But, you know, with reading Promising Young Woman, I just had no idea how to do it or why she was asking me to do it. It wasn't really my job to sort of, navigate the tone, I think. So it took a lot of the fear away once I sort of felt such, you know, trust in Emerald that I could just play, and I knew she was going to make it work.
As far as, you know, like, I guess character-wise, you know, how did you, you know, find Cassie? What was, like, your process like with Emerald, or if it was something that you guys kind of developed together, or if it was something that you kind of found on as you went, or did you immediately kind of know what kind of character she was going to be? Was her voice kind of already there?
It was really a lot of conversation with Emerald. I think the key thing that, you know, was clear to me from the beginning was that despite the fact that it did have sort of a blend of genres and it did feel like a kind of dark comedy, but also a revenge movie and also kind of a thriller-y thing, I wanted it to feel, it was a real person, and her story felt very real to us. And I mean, really the first take of it was, you know, what does female rage look like, and what would you actually do if you were in that position? And so we wanted to be sort of honest about that. And I think it was important that we looked at who she was before this event that kind of derailed her life. What was so great about the film was having different amazing people basically on a daily basis, like Alfred Molina and then Molly Shannon and then Connie Britton.
Who's so nice, by the way.
So nice. That's the thing, all the nicest people in the industry playing these sort of really suspect people.
Yeah.
I think if you have trust in the director, you know, it's always, that's just so much of the work. It's just, if you can put your full faith in your director, it gives you sort of freedom, which you clearly have with Sam.
I've been very lucky in the sense that, you know, every, at least director so far that I've worked with, and I'm still getting started, but has been lovely. But yeah, no, Sam, I definitely think there's just like a special connection there. And I think part of it is also because before Euphoria, technically, I was still on Disney Channel.
Hey, I'm Rue. I'm an addict. You're about to start a brand new chapter.
I was going to ask how he cast you in Euphoria.
I asked him the same thing. Yeah, because I was a bit confused myself. Essentially, you know, he said that I was on a mood board for Rue. Like, you know, he had put me on this thing for Rue, and I was like, no, he didn't. Like, you know, there's like, no way. There's nothing I've done for you to ever think that I could do that, you know? So I think there's something to that kind of faith, or already seeing something in me that I maybe knew was there, but I didn't ever have the opportunity to explore because I really love what I do, but I just hadn't had that time yet to do something or the right thing. And I always kind of refer to, I don't know what it's like for you, but for me, as far as like finding roles or whatever, it's, to me, it feels like falling in love, you know? It's like, it's something uncontrollable where you're just like, I have to do this, you know? It's just like, this is just, it feels right, and you feel connected to them, and it's kind of unexplainable, and you're always kind of searching for that feeling, you know? And that's kind of what I felt with Rue, and then with Marie, you know, as it was being written, I was just like, couldn't believe that it got to be mine.
Hold on to me for dear life.
I guess my question for you, with Promising Young Woman, I know it premiered at Sundance Film Festival, and I guess the reactions that kind of came back, and maybe what you learned from different people or different people's backgrounds or stories that maybe reflected or felt connected to your work, and what that reaction has kind of been like for you.
Yeah, it's funny because it was, we did have our premiere at Sundance, and then we were sort of about to release it, and then the world shut down, so it sort of went away, and it kind of didn't sort of factor in for such a long time. And across the board, people have been positive and negative, but in totally different ways. And I think it doesn't feel gendered in any way. It's a nice thing to be in something that invites.
What do you hope, I guess, are the conversations that are had, I guess, amongst people, but also maybe amongst our industry? Obviously,
what we're talking about in the film is something that we've all been as women talking about forever. These are not new things, the things that we've grown up with practically since we were children, and for that to become a wider conversation, I think is great. And we've all been complicit in that culture. I've certainly laughed at all the films where the bro comedies where a guy goes to a party and tries to identify the most drunk girl in the room.
I know recently you called out a movie review and their criticism and saying that it was sexist, and they ended up apologizing for it. And I just wanted you to kind of speak to that and what that really meant for you.
I feel it's important that, that criticism is constructive. I think it's important that we are looking at the right things when it comes to work, and we're looking at the art, and we're looking at the performance, and the way that a film is made. And I don't think that goes to the appearance of an actor or your personal preference for what an actor does or doesn't look like. I think in criticizing or bemoaning a lack of attractiveness on my part in a character, it wasn't a personal slight. It wasn't something that I felt, it didn't wound my ego, but it made me concerned that in such a big publication, an actress's appearance could be criticized, and it could be, that could be accepted as completely reasonable criticism. And I think it's important to call out those things because they seem small and they seem insignificant. People around me at the time said, oh, get over it, whatever, it's great, it's a great review or whatever, people love the film. But it stuck with me because I think it's these kind of everyday moments that add up, that mean that that we start to edit the way that women appear on screen, and we want them to look a certain way. We want to airbrush them, and we want to make them look perfect, or we want to edit the way that they work and the way they move and the way that they think and behave. And I think we need to see real women portrayed on screen in all of their complexity. It's sort of nerve-wracking to rock the boat with a big publication, but at the same time it feels like you've got to stand up for these things, otherwise it continues and then you're essentially part of it. So I was really, really sort of surprised and thrilled and happy to have received an apology.
Beautifully said.
Zendaya, Euphoria.
I remember seeing your acceptance speech when you won the Emmy for Euphoria. And you just you looked beautiful, but it was just so sweet. That must have been insane. You're the youngest person in history to win that award.
I just was excited to be involved in the conversation, to be amongst these, giants who have, done this for years and are so talented. And it wasn't able to be a typical kind of award ceremony, but in many ways I'm grateful for that because I was able to have my family here. So it was really nice because I was really, really nervous. I was really nervous. So being able to have, my family around me, quite literally having my back, felt really good. I couldn't imagine having to go up in front of a big crowd full of people that I admire and, have to talk about, and just, woo, I'm glad, I'm an actor for a reason. I like to act, and then, when it's just me, I'm like, whoa, this is a lot,
Where do you keep your Emmy?
Right now, currently, it's at my mom's house because I haven't been home because I've been shooting. So I just let her hold it for me. So it's in front of my mom's TV.
MJ, I
am Spider-Man.
No, of course I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Are you filming right now?
technically I'm on like a little bit of a break. I go back to Spider-Man in a few days.
How far through Spider-Man are you? Is it Spider-Man 3?
It's our third, it's our third one. We still have a lot left to do, but it's exciting and it's fun. And part of it also is like, I don't know, I like last time I always explained it as like this thing like running from aliens and things you can't see, you know, it's like part of that is kind of fun, you know, and it's, I think a lot of what we do is escapism, but that is too, you know, just kind of being able to play a teenager again and, you know, run around in this other world and just have a little bit of fun.
You are totally brilliant, and it's been such a pleasure getting to know your work more and getting to chat to you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for all of your kind words as well. It means a lot to me.
I feel like I could chat to you for another 3 hours, but they're going to make us
yes.
win. But
hopefully one day in person.
Yes. Yeah, in real life, that would be so nice.